Hello and welcome to Countrywide on Benue Television. I am Susan Ayo. The headlines. Police arrest 3 over diversion of palliatives meant for IDPs. National Assembly tax staff on technology innovation. Plus strike looms in universities as ASU gives notice. Now the news in details. On the occasion of the World Humanitarian Day, stakeholders in the Benue State have advocated for the speedy return of displaced persons to their ancestral homes. The advocacy was part of the work by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, in Makurdi. Fidelia Zachaundo has the reports.
The World Humanitarian Day is observed every year on August 19th. It is a day set aside to identify and celebrate with persons involved in humanitarian activities or caring for victims of disasters across the world. Benue SEMA, in collaboration with Ministry of Humanitarian, marks this day. It begins with a walk from the Government House roundabout to the State House of Assembly, where the advocates are received by the Speaker, Aondina Daju, who was represented by Majority Leader Tise Sati. The group make a case for the IDPs to return to their homes, saying a bill has already been submitted to the House to that effect. Commissioner for Humanitarian, Mr. Aonduwasekunde, addresses the lawmakers, asking that they try to hasten deliberations on all humanitarian bills on the floor of the House for speedy passage into law. Mr. Kunde says such bills, when passed, will make positive impact on the lives of Benue people.
The increasing number of attacks on humanitarian workers and repeated violators of international laws protecting them demonstrates the need for global awareness and action. A durable solution is said to have been achieved when internet displaced persons no longer have any specific assistance and protection needs that are linked to their displacement and can enjoy their home right without discrimination or account of their displacement.
Responding, the Speaker, Mr. Aondina Daju, who is represented by Majority Leader Sate Tise, identifies with the stakeholders for the good work already in progress. Tise pledges support of the lawmakers and urges the stakeholders to continue to do their best.
And we are interested in a lot of issues that are concerned of these non-governmental organizations that you appoint. We have a bill on my table that was sent to us by President. It's a bill on domestic violence and some other. We are waiting for its input before we consider it to be and pass.
The team later leaves for Anyi in Logo local government of Benue State for onward distribution of palliatives from the federal government. Fidelia Zachaundo, Benue Television News, Makurdi.
3 persons are under the Nigerian police custody over the alleged diversion of palliatives meant for internally displaced persons, IDPs, in Makurdi. The Executive Secretary, Benue State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, James Yupo, made this known Monday during a press briefing in his office. Correspondent Fidelia Zachaundo again reports.
The Executive Secretary, James Yupu, who frowns at the act from one of his staff for being involved in the diversion of food items meant for the IDPs, vows to ensure the perpetrators face the wrath of the law. According to Yupu, every food item has been tampered with save for sugar. The SEMA head announces the constitution of a monitoring team comprising SEMA partners and other stakeholders to help prevent such fraudulent activities.
I want to set up a discipline committee and a monitoring team going forward. Before our next phase of distribution, it is a distribution committee that is going to handle, and majority of the membership will come from support partners, our CSOs and Bonganit, and some of our staff who I think they have the quality to join on the team, so that will be sole responsibility of distributing items to IDPs. going forward.
The incident happened on Friday during the routine process of carrying relief materials to IDP camps for distribution. Fidelia Zashaondu, Benue Television News, Makudi.
Medical workers have called on the government and security officers to bring up policies that will improve the security of health workers in the country. The president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors Federal Medical Center, Makudi, Dr. Fane Ndogo, made this call Monday during a Benue television flagship program, Daybreak Benue, which discussed the protest by the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, following the adoption of the Dr. Ginayat Popola and certain medical students in the country. Dorcas Chia monitored the program and has this reports.
On August 14, 2024, about 20 medical students of the University of Jos and University of Maiduguri got kidnapped along Otuko Road on their way to Enugu for a conference. Prior to that incident, another doctor, Dr. Ganiat Popola, had been abducted and has been in the custody of her abductors for 7 months. These incidents have generated reactions amongst medical associations in the country, especially the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, who have come out to express their displeasure over the insecurity of medical personnel in the country. The President, Association of Resident Doctors Federal Medical Center, Makudi, Dr. Fane Ndogo, during Daybreak Benue, said these cases of insecurity have caused a lot of doctors to migrate, thereby causing a brain drain in the medical profession.
Our ultimatum was actually for Dr. Ganiat Popola, who happens to be a member of our association. Actually, the plans for our ultimatum came up on Wednesday, before the medical students were actually adopted. So the discussions around the ultimatum were not factoring the medical students in them. In fact, that came before the medical students were actually adopted. So our ultimatum was actually for Dr. Popola Ganiat, who happens to be a member of our association.
He appealed to the government to bring in measures that will ensure the safety of doctors in the state. He also mentioned that the aim of the protest is to create some form of pressure on the government to act, and also to create more publicity on their issues.
The essence of bringing this to the public is not just about government, it's about also well-meaning Nigerians who have access to government to call them to order, to call them to do the needful. I mean, if the public feels that doctors are important and doctors are carrying out essential services, what affects the doctor should affect the public. So if the public doesn't really care about what affects the doctor, it's unfortunate.
According to the guest, efforts and measures
You're watching Countrywide on Benue Television. Let's take a quick break. Don't go away. Glad to have you back. President Bola Tinubu Monday said his government was winning the war against corruption, citing the strengthening of anti-corruption agencies and the political will to implement the ECOWAS Protocol Against Corruption, among other measures. He spoke at the 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA, themed Strengthening Regional Corruption in the Fight Against Corruption. Tinubu, who was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, stated that his government has worked diligently to ensure the independence and adequate funding of anti-corruption agencies, encouraging them to operate within the law. The president, who also recommended the templates to other states in West Africa, said corruption remains one of the most significant obstacles in the progress and prosperity of the nations, adding that it undermines the fabrics of societies, erodes public trust, and impedes the equitable distribution of resources. He urged member states to renew their commitments to the causes and move beyond rhetoric to concentrate actions. The National Assembly has challenged its staff to embrace technology for increased productivity and modernization. The clerk of the National Assembly, Magaji Tambwal, gave the charge during the opening ceremony of a 4-day capacity building and training program for 318 staff of the National Assembly from grade level 10 to 14. Delivering a keynote address at the formal opening of a 4-day capacity building program for staff of the National Assembly in Abuja on Monday, Tambwal said training and retraining are essential components of the professional growth and development, particularly in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving work environment. He noted that the National Assembly must be at the forefront of modernization, transparency, and accountability. And to achieve that, staff must be continually trained and retrained to discharge their responsibilities with increased efficiency and commitment. He disclosed that in 2023 alone, the management of the National Assembly successfully trained a total of 3,990 staff on salary grade levels from 4 to 16 with adequate skills and capability to discharge their duties effectively, adding that this year's historic 4-day capacity building program is dedicated to fostering reorientation for improved productivity and effective service delivery. He further stressed that the capacity building initiative is thus not only an occasion for learning and skill enhancement, it is also a profound step towards renewing commitment to excellence in service to legislature and the country at large. Another round of strike by academic staff in the nation's public universities is looming as the national leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has served a strike notice to the federal government. The decision to give the government the 21-day notice was arrived at during the National Executive Committee (NEC) meeting at the union held at the University of Ibadan, Oyo State on Monday. A member of the NEC told newsmen in confidence that the step was due to a non-challenge of the government at the demands of the union and flagrant breach of previous agreement entered with the government. The union's decision came amid ongoing face-off over the non-implementation of agreements with the federal government. Minister of Education Professor Tahiru Mamman had on June 26 met with ASU leaders to address the issue and prevent the planned strike. National President of ASU, Professor Emmanuel Asodeke, said after the meeting with Minister that earlier agreements were yet to be fulfilled. Major issues include the non-implementation of the 2009 renegotiated agreement, which has been pending over 6 years, the accumulation of earned academic allowances, the lack of progress of the revitalization fund, which was agreed upon in the needs assessment report to raise 200 billion naira annually for 5 years. Only one tranche has been paid since, and that was in 2013. Members of the union are still being owed for 4 months' salaries seized by the government following the 8-month strike of 2022. Let's take another break. Don't go away. Glad to have you back on Countrywide. The Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelibu, Monday disclosed that the federal government has paid 205 billion naira to electricity-generated companies, GENCO, as part of efforts to reduce the 1.3 trillion naira debt owed to them. Chief Adebayo, who stated this when the House of Representatives Committee on Power visited the ministry, said most electricity consumers in the country pay lower than the cost price of 120 kilowatt naira. He harped on the importance of having a cost-reflective tariff for the electricity market, pointing out that that was the only way to attract investments. Adelabu explained that the expected opposition from consumers, the government would have pushed the electricity tariff for Brand A customers to about 260 naira kilometer per watt, which would have guaranteed a minimum supply of 16 hours daily. Meanwhile, the managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Engineer Abdulaziz Abubakar, had told the House Committee on Power that the state governments were demanding over $600 billion from company on ground to rent for its substantial data back to 1970s. Engineer Abubakar said that the company does not have that kind of money and is unable to meet the demands of governors. The Nigerian Labour Congress has summoned what it described as an emergency National Executive Council meeting following the invitation of its national president, Joe Ajaero, by the police for allegedly financing terrorism. The NEC meeting will be held on Tuesday with all heads of affiliates and state chapters of the NLC expected to be in attendance. The notice of the meeting, titled Notice of Emergency National Executive Council Meeting, was signed by the NLC Secretary General Emmanuel Ubuaja. Recall that Joe Ajaero was on Monday invited by the police on charges connected to criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasurable felony, subversion and cybercrime. The letter of invitation, dated August 19, 2024, and signed by the ACP Adamu Maazu on behalf of the Commissioner of Police Intelligence, said Ajaero's name was mentioned in ongoing investigation connected to criminal conspiracy, terrorism, financing, treasonable felony, subversion and cybercrime. Accordingly, the letter directed Ajaero to report at the IRT complex Abattoir by Gulazape Junction on Tuesday, August 20 at 10 a.m., strengthening that a warrant of arrest would be issued against him if he failed to report. Recall that the security agents on July 7 conducted a night raid on the NLC National Secretariat in Abuja. The police took responsibility for the operation, saying it was aimed at uncovering incriminating documents that could have built a case against an international subversion figure considered a threat to Nigerians' democracy. The NLC also criticized government attempts to interfere with the organization's internal affairs, including a proposed reduction in the tenure of trade union leaders. The Anambra State branch of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has threatened to shut down hospitals in the state if her kidnapped member in Ihiala is not released immediately. The private medical practitioner Dr. Stephen Eze was abducted at his residence in Umunamehi village, Ihiala, in Ihiala local government area on August 15. The kidnappers initially demanded 40 million naira ransom, but later reduced it to 30 million naira on Sunday. At an emergency general meeting on Monday, the NMA issued a 48-hour ultimatum for the release of Eze, or they withdraw their services across the state. A communique signed by Dr. Princess Ton Okam and Dr. Obiageli Ifeanyi, chairman and secretary respectively, condemns the rising spate of kidnapping and insecurity in the state and called on the government and security agencies to arrest the situation. While appreciating Governor Chukwuma Soludo for the efforts of his administration towards repositioning the health sector, NMA appealed that urgent measures be put in place to tackle the menace of insecurity and other challenges in the state. With that report, we've come to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Before we go, a recap of the top stories. Police has arrested 3 persons over diversion of palliatives meant for IDPs. National Assembly has tasked staff on technology innovation. We also told you that strike looms in universities as ASU gave notice. Thanks for being part of Countrywide on Benue Television. Stay tuned for other programs. I am Susan Ayo. Remain blessed.